Hey friends, back with the Ego Project Minis. And right now we have a question for our Lisa. Being a creative, right? How do we not allow the ego to derail our creativity or our creative process?
That's such a great question. Um, the short answer is it's going to. It will. Ego work, especially healing the wounded ego
Mm-hmm.
when you're creative and through the creativity,
It's
is
true.
an
Yeah.
ongoing process. It truly is. You are investing so much of yourself into
Mm-hmm.
creative work, and whether it's light can enhance, and that ego aspect. It can,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not light, it can decrease that
Yeah.
wounded ego aspect. But it really is, it's an ongoing process. I know for me, I've had my work demeaned and belittled,
Mm-hmm.
called a hobby.
Yeah.
I've also had people had very strong positive reactions, which can also be very uncomfortable to
Mhm.
navigate.
Yeah.
But then
True.
you look at that ego wounding, like, why can I not receive this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it affecting me in this manner?
Mm-hmm.
So I find, for me, it is an ongoing process
Yeah.
dealing with the ego and the wounded ego around it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, giving that example of two different ways that you've shared it and had different little bits of feedback, but still recognize, hey, there's something going on there. I think maybe a big piece of that is making sure that you have a safe place to share your work, especially after the process of creation, because you just said something that resonated with me. The creative process has so much ego probably waxing and waning in there, pain maybe part of the process, but also, having your work looked at. So even during the process of creating, there's ego work, wounding, all of that stuff coming out. So having a, place to share that after it's completed, to just feel safe in the feedback that you get, is probably important. Something I want to ask is, like, is there a, when there's a block, when there's a creative block in the creative community, do they have some way of kind of figuring out what the story is that you're telling yourself? How do people work through that creative block, and is ego work being done in that?
That's such a great question. And I want to speak a little bit to the idea of sharing the work,
Mm-hmm.
because I think very often, I mean, when you're creating something, when you're, in solitude doing that as a writer, as an example, and you are immersed in the creativity, there's just nothing like it. You're in the zone, and, you're in the world that you're creating, and it does
Mm-hmm.
feel great. And you may have days where you're like, oh, this is awful, but you're also like, yeah, but it's also kind of good. You're kind of, you're playing with your own ego there, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're checking in with it. Like, how are we really feeling about this? Yeah.
Exactly. But then when you're ready to share the work,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And I always kind of look at it like, if you have this beautiful, very fragile crystal bowl, you don't just hand that to anyone. You
Mm-hmm.
don't let
Mm-hmm.
anyone touch that.
Yeah.
You don't let the person who has proven themselves to be clumsy in their
Yeah.
communication
Yeah.
touch that crystal bowl, right?
Right.
You don't allow someone who, as an example, doesn't read.
Mm-hmm.
They say
Mm-hmm.
that with pride. I'm not
Right. Right.
a
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a reader.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, and I would love for you to look at my manuscript. I mean,
Exactly.
you're setting yourself up. You
Mm.
really are
You are. Yeah.
to be harmed. Yet when we create something, we're so excited and we want to
Mm.
share that with people. And
Yeah.
I find sharing that with very specific people that
Mm-hmm.
have a track record of being, strong communicators, good readers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
good editors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, that they don't, anyone who ever says, well, I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm like, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm never brutal
Yes. Right. Right.
communication, but we
Mm-hmm.
need to be honest. but
Yeah.
why would you be brutal to me
Yeah.
when it's something that's, you know, so close
Yeah.
to my heart?
Mhm.
So they don't get, you know, they can read it when it's on the shelves.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I love that. I mean, honestly, I think as a creative, it's like, listen, I've created something that I'm going to protect to some extent and share it with people that I trust to be authentic with me, but also respectful. Because you know, once you open that up to the world, others are going to come that you don't have that level of a relationship with, and they're going to say unkind things and hurtful things because they're coming from their own, you know, wounded ego, or, you know, and some of them will just not agree or have a preference for it, and they can, but people who are going to come at it from a wounded place are trying to be hurtful. So, you know, having that layer of protection with people you trust helps you release when the others come and they're not kind or respectful with their feedback. So I think it's really important to have that as a creative, you know, in that process.
It really is. And, you know, like you said, when it's out in the world, when it's been published, or it's hanging on a wall, or, you know, you've created a sculpture, whatever your art form is, once it's out of your hands, it's out of your hands. But you do have control at a certain, you know, up to that point. And your goal is to get it from you know, the idea, the inspiration, through the journey of creativity to completion. And you want to do that intact.
Yeah.
And you want to do that without, you know, it going through abuse, basically, right? That's your goal.
Yeah.
And you have control over that. So, you know, to answer your question, is there a process through it? I think that's the process. I think it's about surrounding yourself with other creatives that you trust. And then when you get to as a writer, get to the publication, you know, step that you reach, where you're going through the editors, and, you know, you want these people to be the ones that are really good at their jobs,
Right.
so that you can then, you know, send out into the world this beautiful piece that you've created. And once it's out there, you know, it takes on a life of its own.
It
But
does.
until that point, you have control.
Yeah. Well, I like that. And I think that will bounce into some other conversations, probably with creativity and integrity. You know, I think that would be a really cool conversation to have soon. So, but if you're looking for more information on the ego and creativity, Lisa, where can they go for that?
Well, they could check out one of our videos here where we take a deeper dive into what that means. And we're also going to be having creatives on the Ego Projects talking about how they navigate the world and their own creativity. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you get notifications when we have new videos.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Christine.